My name is Renee. I'm 36. And the last time my whole family sat around laughing at me, it was my 9-year-old son who shut the whole party down. Not with a scene. Not with tears. He just stood up from a plastic chair in the corner of a sunny backyard in Scottsdale, Arizona, straightened his little clip-on tie, and asked one question so calm and so quiet that everybody had to stop breathing to hear it. The whole yard went dead silent. I could hear the ice maker clicking inside the house. But to really understand what happened at that baby shower on a Saturday in late April, you have to go back 8 weeks, to a set of bank statements I never should have opened and a gas station receipt that fell out of a jacket pocket and blew my whole world open. Hey, you're listening to Silent Revenge, where quiet women see everything, hold it together longer than they should, and let the truth do what it was always going to do anyway. If your family has ever put you down at the dinner table while hiding their own mess behind matching outfits and Instagram photos, stay with me. You're going to feel every single part of this. Drop a comment right now. Tell me your city and the time where you're listening from. And hit subscribe because you really need to hear how this ends. 7 years ago, my husband left me a voicemail. Not a face-to-face talk. Not even a note. A voicemail. 20 seconds long. He said he needed space. He said he was sorry. He said he had been unhappy for a while and didn't know how to say it better than that. I stood in the kitchen in a towel, replaying it 4 times before I noticed the closet in our bedroom was half empty. Marcus was 2 years old. 2 solid weeks after his dad left, he walked to the front door, pressed his little hands on the glass and said, "Dada," every single morning. Every single time I picked him up and pointed at something outside, the neighbor's dog, a bird, a passing car, anything that was not the answer to that question. I had a paralegal certificate and a checking account with $310 in it. So I went back to school at night. I got my degree in financial forensics while Marcus slept in a foldable playpen I set up in the corner of the study room at the community college because babysitting after 8 o'clock was money I didn't have. I passed my licensing exam by flashlight during a power outage in our apartment, notes spread across the floor, Marcus asleep in the next room. I am not making that up. I wish I were. By the time I was 30, I had my own practice. Just me, a used laptop, and a corner desk I rented in a shared office space on the east side of Tucson that smelled like old carpet and somebody else's coffee. By 36, I had 14 steady clients, a house I was paying off ahead of schedule, and a son who could name every prehistoric shark species by heart. None of that ever counted at my mom's table. To my mom, Gloria, I was still the daughter who couldn't hold a marriage together. To my sister, Danielle, I was the cautionary tale, proof that she had done everything smarter and in the right order. They never once asked about my work. Never asked how Marcus was getting along in school. Every holiday, every Sunday phone call, every birthday brunch looped back to the same score. Danielle had a husband. Danielle had a house in a nice part of Chandler. Renee did not. And in my family's math, everything else about me got subtracted. I let it go on for years. I sat at those tables. I soaked up the side comments and the long sighs and drove home telling myself it didn't get to me. It always got to me. My mom called every single Sunday at 3 o'clock. She never started with, "How are you?" She started with Danielle. Danielle's new kitchen backsplash. Danielle's job managing a dental office in Paradise Valley. Danielle's husband, Troy, and the trip they just got back from in Sedona. If I mention Marcus made the honor roll, Mom would say, "Oh, that's sweet, honey," and swing right back around. Your sister is really figuring things out, Renee. She made smart choices. Figuring things out. Like building a business alone from scratch while raising a kid was just a phase I hadn't snapped out of yet. Mom made it clearest one Christmas. Marcus, he was 7, bumped into the dessert table chasing their cat and knocked a bowl of mixed nuts all over the floor. Mom cleaned it up, looked over her shoulder at me, and said plain as anything, "Danielle never has these kinds of problems because she built a stable life." She said it gently, casually, like she was reading numbers off a thermostat. I kept my face still. I had gotten real good at that. Marcus pushed into my side and grabbed my sweater in both fists. 7 years old, and he already knew when a room had turned on us. I should have said something right then. I should have looked my mom in the eye and said, "Your grandson is standing right here, Mom." But I didn't. I swallowed it down. I was really good at swallowing things and keeping moving. Danielle was 8 months along when Mom called to let me know about the baby shower. Not to ask me. To let me know. We're doing it at the house. 3rd Saturday in April. I need you here by 8 to help set up. I was standing at my kitchen counter, watching Marcus build a robot out of cardboard boxes in the living room. So I'm doing setup? Someone has to. Danielle can't lift things right now. No mention of whether I could bring a guest. No mention of Marcus. When I asked if I should bring him, Mom paused. I suppose so. Just keep him out of the way. There's going to be a lot going on. Keep him out of the way. Her grandson. Out of the way. I said okay. I always said okay. I hung up and stared at Marcus's cardboard robot and sat with that phrase for a long time like a rock I had agreed to swallow. Troy was the reason Danielle's life looked the way it did, at least from the outside. He was 38, tall, easy smile, worked as a regional sales rep for a commercial heating and cooling supply company. He brought Mom flowers on her birthday every single year without fail. He grilled burgers at every family cookout and called her Miss Gloria with a wink in a way that made the whole room go soft. The whole family treated him like a ribbon Danielle had won for doing life the right way. Nobody ever questioned the work trips. Troy traveled a lot. Northern Arizona Territory, he'd always say. Sometimes he'd leave Friday and not come back until Sunday night, smelling like a hotel soap nobody in his bathroom owned. Sometimes he left Thursday and came back Monday morning looking worn out in a way that had nothing to do with sales calls. Mom called it a strong work ethic. Danielle called it dedication. I work in financial forensics. I read numbers for the truth they're trying not to show. And when something doesn't line up right, there is a specific feeling, kind of like a low hum behind your ears, that I have learned not to ignore. But I pushed it down. 'Cause questioning Troy meant questioning Danielle. And questioning Danielle meant another long Sunday phone call about choices and mistakes and what I should have done differently. Here is what Danielle's life looked like from the outside because you need to picture it. 4-bedroom house inside a gated neighborhood in Chandler. A nursery she had been putting together since month 3, dusty rose walls, an $800 crib, tiny monogrammed onesies lined up in the closet like little pink soldiers. 2 Instagram posts a week. Troy's hand on her belly. Troy putting together the rocking chair. Troy holding a pair of tiny sandals up to the camera with a caption that said, "She's almost here." 40,000 people liked that post. I scrolled past them late at night while going through invoice records for a client. I am not going to pretend I felt nothing. There was a specific little sting in watching your younger sister live the life people had decided you threw away. I felt it. Then I put my phone down and got back to work. But I also noticed things. The way Troy's territory kept getting bigger every few months. The weekends that stretched longer and longer. The soap smell on him sometimes that didn't match anything in his bathroom at home. Small things, the kind that don't mean much by themselves but start forming a shape when you've spent years learning how to read a pattern. There was also the thing with Marcus. Troy had promised Marcus a Phoenix Suns game twice. Both times something came up at the last minute. Work conflict. Scheduling problem. Marcus would just nod and say, "It's okay, Uncle Troy." In that small, practiced voice he had started using, the one that had already figured out how to make room for letdowns. He was 9. He should not have known how to do that yet. 6 weeks before the shower, Troy called me. Not Danielle. Me. He said Danielle had a long prenatal appointment and Mom was going with her, and could I handle pickup at Marcus's school and keep him for the afternoon? He offered to come get Marcus himself while I finished up a client deadline. Something in my gut caught, the same way a line item on a spreadsheet catches your eye before you even know what's wrong with it. But Marcus had already heard Troy's name on speaker, and he looked at me with this big grin, and I said yes. They were gone almost 4 hours. When Troy's truck pulled into my driveway at 6:40 that evening, Marcus hopped out happy and sticky-handed, holding a small paper bag. "Uncle Troy took me somewhere cool," he said, walking past me into the house. Inside the bag was a little toy dump truck. The box said ages 18 months to 3 years. "Did you pick this out, Marcus?" I asked Troy at the door. He laughed in that easy, relaxed way of his. "Oh yeah, I grabbed 2 actually." Marcus wanted to give one to a little friend. He waved and backed out of the driveway. I stood there holding that toy for a while. Ages 18 months to 3 years. Marcus did not have a little friend who was 3. Later that night, I found Troy's jacket in my back seat. He had set it down while loading something from my trunk and forgotten it. A folded receipt slipped out of the pocket and landed on my driveway. "Gas station, fill up. A small juice and a bag of crackers." The station was in Maricopa, 40 minutes south and east of Chandler, nowhere near Troy's sales territory. I stood under my porch light and stared at that little piece of paper like it was a column that would not balance. Maricopa. Juice and crackers. Toy for a kid who was 3. If you've ever had that gut feeling that something just doesn't add up but you kept telling yourself you were wrong, drop a fire in the comments right now. I see every single one of you. I started crocheting the baby blanket 6 weeks before the shower. Soft cream-colored yarn, the kind that feels like it was made for a newborn. I taught myself to crochet from a library book when Marcus was a baby because that year I couldn't afford much of anything. I made him a little hat that looked like a lopsided acorn. He wore it all winter anyway. This blanket was better. Tighter, cleaner, with a border I redid twice until it was right. I sat on the couch after Marcus went to sleep, pulling yarn through loops by the light of the muted TV, and every row felt like something I was trying to say out loud but couldn't. I love my sister. I want her baby to be warm. I want to show up at that table and have somebody look at what I made and just see me, not the ex-wife, not the mistake, not the bad example. Just me. I finished it at 11:15 on a Wednesday night. Held it up under the kitchen light. One slightly uneven spot along the right side and the fringe was a little longer on one end. Marcus wandered out in his pajamas, squinted at it. "It's really beige, Mom." "It's cream." "It's really cream." I folded it into a gift box, tied a ribbon, and told myself this blanket might change how they saw me. It couldn't. But something else would. I just didn't know yet it would be my 9-year-old. 3 weeks before the shower, Troy texted me. "Hey Renee. Quick favor. Trying to get the house refinanced and the bank wants everything organized and clean. You're the numbers person. Any chance you could look over these statements before I send them in?" I should have said no. I should have told him to hire his own accountant. But Troy had never once asked me for a single thing. And some part of me, the part that still wanted to belong to this family, that still wanted to be seen as useful instead of just put up with, said yes. He sent 4 PDFs, joint checking account statements. 4 months of transactions. I opened them at 10:30 that night with Marcus's spelling list still on the kitchen table and a cold cup of tea at my elbow. First month looked normal. Groceries, gas, a warehouse store membership, prenatal appointments. Then I saw it. A recurring auto payment. $1,580 per month going to a property management company based in Maricopa. Maricopa. Same town as that gas receipt. I kept scrolling. Another charge, $490 per month to a place called Desert Bloom Children's Center, also in Maricopa. A daycare. Danielle and Troy did not have a child yet. Their baby wasn't due for another 6 weeks. I sat with those numbers for a long time. My tea went from warm to cold to something I forgot was even there. There are always possible explanations, right? A rental property they're managing. A daycare payment for a family friend's kid. I told myself that. You tell yourself that when you're looking at numbers you really don't want to understand. I closed the laptop. I did not sleep. In the morning, I opened it again. The Maricopa rent had been going out every month for 41 months. The daycare payments for 34 months. Both started before Troy and Danielle's wedding anniversary. I matched the payment dates against Troy's territory visit schedule. Every single month, like something set on a timer, Troy moved money into a second checking account the day before the rent went out automatically. He was paying for a second home on a schedule more reliable than their mortgage. My hands were shaking and I was annoyed at them for shaking. I review fraud cases. I have traced stolen money through 3 layers of fake vendors. Numbers do not rattle me. But these numbers had my sister's name on them. And her unborn baby. And a holiday table I still sat at every single year even though nobody ever saved me a good seat. So I did what I always do. I told myself there had to be an explanation. I saved the statements in a folder on my desktop labeled Troyify and I closed it and went to check Marcus's spelling homework. He had gotten every single word right. 3 weeks before the shower, I was working on a client case, a small medical office where the billing manager had been bumping up vendor invoices for almost 2 years. Paid for a boat. Set up every office birthday party. Everyone loved the guy. I stared at his records and thought about Troy flipping burgers at every family cookout. Troy remembering Mom's birthday. Troy's arm around Danielle in every single photo, holding her the way someone holds something they are showing off rather than loving. Being charming is not evidence of being honest. People I have caught stealing the most have always been the ones nobody ever suspected. The ones who remembered your name and showed up with food. I closed the client file. I opened the Troyify folder. I stared at the Maricopa line for 60 seconds. Then I closed it again. I was trained to follow the money. I just did not want to follow it here. 2.5 weeks before the shower, Troy asked to take Marcus out again. I had been making up reasons to keep that from happening since the receipt, homework, early bedtime, stuff I may have invented. But Marcus heard me on the phone and grabbed my hand and begged. Troy showed up 10 minutes early with a basketball and that easy grin. I gave in. They were gone almost 3.5 hours. When Marcus came home, he was quieter than normal. He sat on his bed and took his sneakers off one at a time like he was thinking something through very carefully. I leaned against his doorway. Good time. Yeah. Long pause. Mom, can I tell you something? Always. He looked up at me. His eyes were careful in the way kids' eyes get when they know what they're about to say is big. Uncle Troy took me to a different house. Not his house. A different neighborhood. There was a woman there with dark hair and a little girl. Her name is Lily. She's little, maybe 2 or 3. My whole spine went cold. Not my hands. My spine. Like someone ran ice up the middle of my back. Who was the woman, Marcus? Uncle Troy called her Jennifer. She made us quesadillas. Lily kept showing me her stuffed animals. She's got a ton of them. He picked at his shoelace. Uncle Troy said it was a secret. He said it's like a birthday surprise and you're not supposed to talk about it before the day. I sat down on the edge of his bed and put my arm around him. Thank you for telling me, baby. You didn't do a single thing wrong. The next morning I was cleaning out his backpack. A juice box had leaked all over the bottom, and between a crumpled permission slip and half a granola bar, there was a folded piece of construction paper. He had drawn a picture. 2 houses side by side. The one on the left was big, with a triangle roof and green grass, and a stick figure labeled Aunt Danielle with a big round belly. The one on the right was smaller, drawn in brown crayon with 3 figures out front. A tall man labeled Uncle Troy. A woman with dark scribbled hair labeled Jennifer. A tiny figure labeled Lily, holding what looked like a stuffed animal. Between the 2 houses, Marcus had drawn a little road. A small car was driving between them. Car had a smiley face drawn on its windshield. On the back, in his careful block letters, was a partial address. Just the street number and name, the way a kid copies what he sees on a mailbox. 218 Copper Ridge Road, Maricopa. He had spelled Maricopa wrong, but I knew exactly where it was. I folded that drawing and put it in my cardigan pocket. Then I canceled every plan Marcus had left with Troy. I sent Troy a text that said we had a full schedule for the next few weeks. No explanation. He didn't need one from me. That night after Marcus went to sleep, I opened my laptop and pulled up the county public property records for Maricopa. Same database I use in asset searches on fraud cases, free, legal, available to anyone. I typed in 218 Copper Ridge Road. The record came back as a single-family rental home, leased to a Troy and Jennifer Haynes, same last name because it was the same Troy, for 3 years and 3 months. Marcus had already given me the rest. A woman named Jennifer with dark hair. A little girl named Lily, around 2 or 3 years old. I sat in my dark kitchen and did the math I had been putting off. Lily was roughly 3 years old. Troy and Danielle had been married 4 years, which meant Troy had either started this relationship right around the time of his own wedding, or just before it. He had been paying rent on a second home, paying a second child's daycare, living a second life 40 minutes away from the house where my sister was painting a nursery and posting photos of tiny sandals with 40,000 hearts. I closed the laptop. I pulled Marcus's drawing out of my cardigan pocket and looked at it under the stovelight. 2 houses. 1 little car, smiling, driving back and forth between them. My 9-year-old had mapped the whole truth in crayon. And the only person at that family table who could read it was me. Here is what I did not do. I did not screenshot everything and blast it to the family group chat at midnight. I did not call Mom. I did not save it to use as a weapon at a public party in front of 30 people while my sister was 8 months pregnant. I work in financial fraud. I know what a well-timed hit like that does to someone's life, their finances, their custody arrangements, their whole sense of reality. And doing it at a baby shower in front of guests would not be justice. That would just be cruelty dressed up as payback. So I made a plan. I would wait until after the shower. I would ask Danielle to meet me for coffee, just the 2 of us, no Mom, no Troy. I would bring the bank records, the county property data, the gas receipt, and Marcus's drawing. I would sit across from my sister and tell her the truth the way you tell hard news to someone you love. Directly, clearly, without an audience. I would also tell her I could help her. Financial discovery work in a divorce case is exactly what I do. Hidden money, secret accounts, undisclosed kids, all of it affects how the assets get split. I could trace every single dollar Troy had sent to Maricopa and make sure Danielle and that baby were protected. I thought through what to say. I wrote notes on a legal pad. Then I tore the notes up and flushed them because scripting how to blow up your sister's marriage felt too clinical, too cold. This wasn't a case file. This was Danielle. Danielle, who crawled into my bed during every Arizona thunderstorm when we were little. Who borrowed my earrings before school dances and never gave them back. Who had spent 10 years comparing our lives and landing on the one thing that made her feel ahead. I wasn't going to take that from her in a backyard full of people. I was going to sit with her over coffee and hold her hand while the world rearranged itself. 'Cause that is what big sisters do. Even when the little sister has made it very hard. That was the plan. Quiet, private, handled with care. Then I got a text from Troy that changed everything. 2 days before the shower, I texted Troy 4 words. We need to talk. I gave him 20 minutes, then followed up, Maricopa. The rental. Jennifer. Lily. Typing dots appeared, disappeared, came back. Then, I don't know what you think you found, Renee. I replied, I found 41 months of rent. I found the daycare. I found the public lease record. I know. He called me. His voice was low and tight, the voice of a man choosing fast between 2 doors. You went through my financial records. You sent them to me and asked me to review them, Troy. Silence. Long enough that I counted to 8. Then he picked the doormen like him always pick. Stay out of my marriage. Nobody in this family is going to believe you over me. They all know what you are, bitter, jealous, alone. You've resented Danielle for years. If you say one word, I will make sure the whole family sees it exactly that way. I looked at Marcus's drawing on the refrigerator, held up by a small dinosaur magnet. I'm not going to say anything at the shower, I said. I'm asking you to sit down with Danielle yourself before the baby arrives and tell her the truth. That is not going to happen. Then I will tell her privately afterward. She deserves to know. She deserves a partner who shows up every day. That is exactly what I am. He hung up. Troy had 2 full days to come clean. He spent both of them posting photos. That same night, a picture of him and Danielle, her head on his shoulder, both of them laughing at something off camera. He wrote, almost time. She is everything. 42,000 likes. I put my phone face down on the nightstand and went to bed. If you already know how this is going to go, hit that like button so Silent Revenge can keep bringing you stories like this. I read every comment. Every single one. Saturday morning. Early April. Scottsdale. Mom's backyard looked like a set design. A balloon arch in blush and soft gold framed the patio door. White folding chairs in neat rows with trailing ribbon on each one. A 3-tier cake on a tall stand, fondant flowers, baby girl Haynes written in cursive along the base. A mimosa bar. A photo spot with a glittery sign. A long table covered in registry gifts, box strollers, a $280 swaddle set, a fancy sound machine, crystal picture frames, envelopes with checks. Marcus and I pulled into the driveway at 7:58 a.m. I wore a green wrap dress with pockets. Marcus wore a blue button-down shirt and a clip-on tie he picked himself, little silver dinosaurs on navy blue. He had combed his own hair. A cowlick stood straight up at the back like a flag that refused to come down. You look sharp, buddy, I told him. I want to look nice, he said. It's a family party. He carried the gift box under his arm like it was something that mattered. Mom met us at the side gate. No hello. She pointed at a stack of folding chairs against the garage wall. Those need to go out back. 6 across 5 rows. Ribbons facing front. Good morning, Mom. She glanced at Marcus. There's a chair by the coat hooks in the hallway. He can sit there. Her grandson. Assigned to a hallway chair like he was a coat nobody claimed. I knelt in front of Marcus and straightened his tie. Quiet enough that Mom couldn't hear. You're sitting with me the whole time. He nodded. We set up 30 chairs in the April morning heat while caterers walked past us like we were invisible. Danielle arrived at 9:20 in a white sundress, glowing, one hand resting on her belly, Troy right beside her with his arm around her waist. He saw me across the yard. His jaw went tight for 1 second, just a flicker, and then the grin came right back. Smooth, practiced, perfect. 30 guests showed up over the next hour. None of them had any idea what I knew. I put my gift box at the end of the gift table. It looked exactly the way I knew it would, small, clean, handmade with a slightly uneven ribbon. Marcus looked at it, then at me. She's gonna love it, Mom. The unearned hope of a 9-year-old. I did not correct him. Danielle worked through the gift table around noon. Every box got a squeal, a lift and show applause. Then she got to mine. She pulled back the tissue paper and held the blanket up between 2 fingers like she was checking a fabric sample. Oh. A little tilt of the head. Homemade. That is very much you, Renee. She set it on the folding chair behind her. Not on the display table. Not in her lap. Behind her. Like a jacket she'd deal with later. 2 women near me traded a look. One pressed her lips together. Marcus's hand found mine under the table. He squeezed once. I squeezed back and kept my face exactly where I had trained it, still. The digs kicked in during the mimosa round. Danielle's friend Kristen, loud, polished, always with her glass refilled first, leaned across toward me. "So, Renee, anyone on the horizon for you? Any news?" Before I could answer, Mom cut in from the doorway. "Renee is focused on Marcus. That's enough for her right now," said like she was being kind. Did not feel kind. One of Troy's cousins tilted her glass toward Danielle and Troy. "You two are honestly goals. Danielle, girl, you picked a good one." Danielle smiled wide. Troy put his hand on her back. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He didn't check it, but I watched his hand move toward it and stop. "Some of us just know what to look for," Danielle said. Not to Kristen. At me. "It really comes down to the choices you make early," said Patrice, one of Mom's closest friends, patting my arm while she said it, the way you pat someone at a funeral. The yard kept rolling along. Comfortable. Pleasant. 30 adults sipping mimosas in the warm morning shade while my son sat in a chair too tall for him with his feet dangling 6 inches off the ground, cataloging every single word. He tugged my sleeve. "Mom, can we go soon?" "Not yet, baby. They keep talking about us like we're not sitting right here." 9 years old. Hearing every word. And I was sitting in a backyard full of people who used my life as a warning in between sips of champagne. Mom stood up at 2 o'clock and clinked a fork against her glass. 30 people went quiet. Mom has a voice that carries when she is in front of an audience. Warm. Sure. The voice of a woman who has never once doubted that what she believes is simply true. I want to say something about my daughter Danielle and about Troy, who has given her everything a mom could want for her child. A real home. A real partnership. A complete family. She paused on that word. Complete. Held it there. I felt it land on my shoulders like a hand pressing me down. "Danielle, baby, you did it the right way. You built something solid and good. And now you're bringing a daughter into a family that is whole." She raised her glass. "To the Haynes family." 30 voices echoed it. Glasses clinked. People drank. Danielle touched the corner of her eye. Troy kissed her temple. 3 seconds. I counted because that is what I do when I cannot control anything else. 3 seconds of performance. Mom made her rounds after, collecting compliments like she was collecting something she had earned. "Such a beautiful family, Gloria. You raised her right." She smiled and accepted every bit of it. She did not look at me or Marcus once. We were 3 feet away in the same row of chairs. Kristen got everyone going with a guessing game while people wrote down baby names on pink cards. While they laughed and passed cards around, Troy's phone buzzed again. He pulled it out, typed something fast, put it away. His face changed for just a moment, a tightening around the eyes, before the easy look settled back in. Marcus leaned close to me. "Uncle Troy looks nervous, Mom." "Sure, baby." He does, though. It happened during the advice card part of the shower. A little station where guests wrote down parenting tips. Kristen was reading them aloud and the yard was warm and easy and everyone was laughing at the sweet ones. Then Kristen asked, "Danielle, what are you most excited about with becoming a mom?" Danielle smiled. She rubbed her belly. She looked out at the yard, and then her eyes landed on me and stayed there. "Honestly," she said, "I'm just grateful my daughter is going to grow up in a home that's complete." She paused. Everyone was quiet. "With a dad who actually shows up every single day." She tilted her head, still looking straight at me, and her smile got sharper. "At least my baby will know who her daddy is." The laughter came fast. Not all 30 people. But enough. Maybe 16 or 18. Some of them covered their mouths. Some of them didn't bother. 2 of Danielle's friends actually clapped, palms coming together in the warm afternoon air like the joke had finally landed. The joke was 7 years of my life. The stage was a backyard where I had set up all the chairs that morning. Troy stood near the mimosa bar and stared at the grass. He shifted his weight. Mom sat in her cushioned chair, the good one, the one with the armrests, the one nobody else ever used, and she let the laughter happen like a judge letting a verdict stand. Marcus grabbed my hand under the table with both of his. His grip was so tight I felt the small bones of his fingers against my palm. 9 years old, holding me together. The sound rolled over me. The laughter. Clapping. Pleased, settled hum of a room that had agreed on something. And I held my face still. Not because I wasn't hurting. I was hurting in the place where you keep the things you've never said out loud. That deep drawer you do not open in public because once it's open you cannot get it closed again in front of witnesses. Clapping is what I still remember most. Not even the words. Clapping. 18 adults applauding my sister for using the worst chapter of my life as her best joke. My son's hands wrapped around mine like he was keeping me from floating away. Then Mom leaned forward in her cushioned chair, quiet, carrying voice, and said, "Some women just don't make the right choices." Not loud. She did not need loud. She was looking directly at me and she said it like a plain fact. Like weather. Like something that was true and everybody already knew it. Therese nodded. 2 women in the back tilted their heads in agreement. Marcus tugged my sleeve. "Mom." "Sit down and be quiet, sweetheart." That was Mom's voice, not talking to me. Talking to Marcus. My son, her grandson, tugging my arm trying to get a word in, and she cut him off from 4 feet away without even glancing at him. Like he was background noise. Like he was part of my mistake. I felt Marcus go very still next to me. I felt him let go of my sleeve. I put my hand on his knee. Breathed in through my nose. Through my mouth. I was going to stand up, take his hand, walk through that gate with my chin up and go home. That was still the plan. Then my son stood up. He did not shout. He did not stomp or cry or make a scene. He stood the way he stands when he raises his hand in class, straight back, calm, sure of himself. His little clip-on tie was slightly off-center. Tulloch was back. The yard had been laughing and settling and people were reaching for their phones and their plates. Marcus's voice cut straight through all of it. Steady. Clear. The voice of a kid who had decided the grown-ups in this yard were wrong, and somebody needed to say something, and he was the one available. "Aunt Danielle, should I tell everyone about Uncle Troy's other family?" The noise did not fade out. Just stopped. 1 second, 30 people clinking, laughing, moving around. The next second, nothing. Not quiet. Nothing. I have been in boardrooms when fraud findings get read out loud. I have watched executives go white mid-sentence. I have heard silences that ended people's careers. I have never in my life heard a silence like the one my 9-year-old son made in that backyard. Danielle's smile did not drop. Froze. Like a video paused 1 frame before everything falls apart. Troy was standing near the mimosa table. His hand was wrapped around a champagne glass. Did not move. Marcus looked around the yard the way he looks around his classroom when he has answered a question and is waiting to find out if he got it right. "Uncle Troy has another house," he said, quieter now, talking to Danielle but loud enough for the whole front row to hear every word. "In Maricopa. With a lady named Jennifer and a little girl named Lily. She is maybe 2 or 3. She showed me all her stuffed animals. She has a whole bunch of them." 30 faces turned, not toward Marcus, not toward Danielle, toward Troy. Troy, whose hand was still on the glass. Troy, whose face had gone the color of the white fondant on the cake behind him. Troy, who had 2 full days to tell the truth and spent those days posting pictures that got 42,000 likes. Danielle laughed. It was the worst sound I have ever heard. High, hollow, cracking at the edges the way plaster cracks right before it gives. What is he talking about? She looked at me, not Troy, at me. "Renee, what did you tell him?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Troy answered for all of us by moving. He set his glass down too hard. Champagne went over the rim and spread across the linen. He took one step toward Marcus and then stopped, because 30 people were watching, and a grown man who moves toward a child in front of witnesses knows exactly how that looks. He's confused. Troy's voice came out too loud for how quiet the yard was. He's 9. He heard something somewhere and got it mixed up. He wasn't actually. I wasn't confused. Marcus's voice was steady. Steadier than Troy's. You took me there. Jennifer made us quesadillas. Lily showed me her stuffed elephant. You said keep it secret like a birthday surprise. Troy's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Kristen set her glass down slowly. Patrice folded her hands in her lap. Mom was gripping both armrests of her cushioned chair. Knuckles white. And for the first time in my life, I saw something on my mom's face I had never seen before. I think it was fear. I stayed in my chair. I kept my hand on Marcus's knee. I did not say one word. 'Cause the loudest person in a room is sometimes the one who says absolutely nothing while the truth does what it came to do. Troy tried again. Renee put him up to this. Marcus looked at his uncle the way children look at grown-ups when the math stops adding up. She didn't. I drew a picture of the houses. It's in my backpack. 20 heads turned toward the hallway, toward the coat hooks, toward the folding chair in the corner where my mom had put my son to stay out of the way, and the small blue backpack hanging off the back of it. Innocent people do not move that fast. Troy was already heading for the door. But Danielle got there first. 8 months pregnant, she crossed that yard faster than anyone. One hand under her belly, the other reaching for the zipper. Mom called her name. Danielle did not slow down. She pulled the backpack off the chair, unzipped it, and the folded construction paper fell out between a juice box and a library book. She opened it. 2 houses. One smiling car driving between them on a little road. Uncle Troy. Jennifer. Lily. I watched Danielle's eyes move from one crayon figure to the next. I watched the drawing do exactly what I had never wanted it to do. Not here, not like this, not in front of 30 people. Took her apart piece by piece. Triangle roofs. The little girl with a stuffed animal in her hand. A child who was 3 years old, living in a house 40 minutes away, on money drawn from the same account that was supposed to be paying their mortgage. Troy. Her voice was flat. Professional almost. The voice of someone running on something beyond shock. What is this? Troy was at the patio door. Car keys already in his hand, pulled from his pocket the way someone reaches for an exit without thinking about how it looks. Danielle, let me explain. Inside, okay? Not out here. Right here. She held the drawing up. Her hand was shaking and the paper shook with it. Explain, Lily. Explain 41 months of rent I didn't know existed. Explain the daycare in Maricopa. She had done the math. Maybe not the exact amount. But she had heard Marcus say 2 or 3 and she had counted backward past her own wedding day. Troy looked at the drawing. 30 faces watching him from white folding chairs. The patio door behind him. He chose the door. He walked through it, grabbed his jacket off the hook and left. The front door closed behind him, soft, almost polite, like he was just stepping out for a minute. His truck started half a minute later. He backed down the driveway and drove away without a word. Nobody followed him. Danielle turned to me. I expected that. Grief needs somewhere to land and Troy had just walked out. So the next available person was his wife's sister. The one who had known. The one who had come to the shower anyway. You did this. Her voice was shaking. You knew and you brought your son here and used him to blow up my life in front of everybody I know. I found out 3 weeks ago, I said. Quietly. I was doing the refinance review Troy asked me to handle. I told him to sit down with you himself before the baby came. He refused. I had a plan to tell you privately. Just us, coffee, no audience, everything laid out so you could take it in at your own pace. Then why is my nephew standing in my mom's backyard right now? Because you said at least my baby will know who her daddy is. And Marcus is 9 years old and he thinks in straight lines. He connected what you said with what he had seen at that house in Maricopa. He wasn't trying to hurt you, Danielle. He thought he was helping. The yard was so still I could hear a sprinkler running 3 houses over. I was not going to say a word today. I had a whole plan to handle this gently. Privately. Danielle's hands pressed flat against her belly. Her eyes were on me and they held something that looked like grief and anger sharing the same space. I did not list the evidence. I did not say what I could have said. That the woman who had spent years calling me a bad example was now standing in the middle of the same situation she had laughed at. I didn't say any of it. I came here with a blanket, Danielle. Not a bomb. Troy built this. I just stopped pretending it wasn't there. She sank into a folding chair, both hands on her belly, eyes open but not really seeing anything. Looking at the balloon arch like it was a door she could walk through and come out on the other side of this hour. For one moment, just one, I saw my sister. Not the woman who had mocked me. Not the woman who used my divorce as a party punchline in front of everyone she knew. My little sister. 33 years old. 8 months pregnant. Sitting in a backyard full of witnesses to the worst day of her life, realizing she was about to become the exact thing she had laughed at. She did not apologize. She didn't look at Marcus. She pressed her face into her hands and made a sound that was somewhere between crying and something older and rawer than that. It was real. It was human. And it did not undo a single word she had said. Mom stood up from the cushioned chair. She looked at Danielle. Then at me. Then at the empty space where Troy had been standing a minute ago. Her mouth opened and closed. The woman who always had a verdict, who had spent 30 years handing out rulings about choices and smart decisions and who had figured out life correctly, had not one word. I walked to the folding chair behind the gift table and picked up the cream blanket. I folded it the way I had folded it the night I finished the last loop. Then I looked at my mom. You know where to find me when you're ready to have a conversation that doesn't start with what I did wrong. I took Marcus's hand. His tie had come loose. I fixed it as we walked through the side gate, past the balloon arch, past the cake with its fondant flowers, past the mimosa bar that still had full pictures on it. Marcus looked up at me once we hit the driveway. Are you mad at me, Mom? No, baby. You told the truth. That is never the wrong thing to do. I buckled him in. I drove us home. I did not look back once. Here is what happened after. Troy was gone for 6 days. No dramatic scene, no family search. He just stopped answering. Stopped showing up to the house in Chandler. Stopped existing in the version of his life that Danielle had built around him. On day 4, a woman named Jennifer called Danielle's cell phone. She had found the number by digging through Troy's phone records. She was calm and she sounded exhausted in the way of someone who has been composing themselves for a very long time. She had a 3-year-old asking every day where Daddy went. They talked for an hour and 10 minutes. I know this because Danielle called me right after. Her voice was flat the way voices go flat when the shock has all been used up and what's left is just the numbers. He moved $31,000 out of our joint savings over the last year. Small amounts, different every time. I never noticed. How did I not notice? It's a common pattern, I told her. Small transfers, irregular timing. It's designed not to catch your eye. Silence. Then, can you help me? 3 words. 6 years of being the cautionary tale. And 3 words that were the first real thing she had ever asked me for. Yes, I said. That is exactly what I do. I spent the next 3 weeks pulling Troy's financial life apart. A separate business account in his name only. cash income from a side contracting job he had never mentioned, 41 months of rent and daycare fees that affected how every marital asset would be split. I built the file the way I build every file, clean, organized, dated, ready to hold up in a courtroom. Danielle hired a family law attorney in Scottsdale. The attorney looked at what I had put together and told Danielle she had rarely seen financial evidence this well organized from someone who wasn't a lawyer. Mom called me once. She did not say she was sorry. She said she hadn't known about Troy. I know you didn't, I said. You can call me again when you're ready for a different kind of conversation. She hasn't called back yet. I mailed the baby blanket to Danielle. Clean box, fresh tissue paper, no note. The baby was innocent. The baby needed something warm. Some things you make for yourself. Some things you just make for the person who needs them. That blanket was for the baby. The night I mailed it, Marcus and I sat on the kitchen floor and ate instant ramen out of the only 2 clean mugs we had. The apartment was quiet. No champagne. No balloon arches. No toasts about complete and whole families. Marcus had a noodle hanging off his chin and slurped it back in with a sound that made us both laugh out loud. Mom. Yeah, bud. Aunt Danielle said I don't have a dad around. Is that bad? I put my mug down and pulled him into my side. Noodle chin and all. You have me. I have you. We are not missing anything. He turned it over slowly the way he turns everything over. What about Lily? Is she going to be okay? She has people who love her. Even though the grown-ups made a mess of things. Even though the grown-ups made a mess, he said quietly, like he was putting it somewhere safe in his head. Mom. Yeah. At the party when everybody was laughing at you. He looked up at me. I didn't think it was funny at all. I know, baby. That's why you said something. I wasn't trying to be mean. I just kept thinking, Aunt Danielle keeps talking about dads, but Uncle Troy already has a whole other family. So why is everybody laughing at you? His thinking was clean. Cleaner than anything I had planned. Cleaner than any carefully thought-out speech I was going to give Danielle over coffee. He just saw a contradiction and said it out loud. That was the whole thing. That was everything. He leaned into me and we sat there on the kitchen floor with the light buzzing and the fridge humming and the smell of broth around us. 2 people. 1 kitchen floor. No audience. No score being kept about what counts as whole. A family isn't complete because 2 people show up in every photo. It's complete when nobody inside it has to swallow a lie just to stay in the room. My 9-year-old taught a whole backyard of adults that truth in one question. And I have never been more proud to be the woman they called a bad example. That is my story. A handmade blanket. Crayon map. And a boy who was braver than every single grown-up in that yard. If your family has ever held you up as the warning while hiding their own mess behind coordinated outfits and picture-perfect posts, this one was for you. Drop a comment right now and tell me your city and what time it is where you are listening. I want to know where silent revenge is reaching tonight. If this story hit you somewhere real, share it with one person who needs it. One friend, one family member, one coworker who has been sitting at a table where everybody laughs at them. Send it their way. Hit like so the algorithm actually shows this story to the people who need it most. And subscribe to Silent Revenge because quiet women have the best stories. And we are just getting started. I will see you in the next one.